Hi, my name is Michelle Scally-Doylney, and I'm here on behalf of IFSG, International Feng Shui Guild, and I'm here with Tina Falk from VIA Center today.
Hi.
Hi, Tina. It's so good to be back here with you.
Mm.
Um, Another video, more wisdom, more information to share. If you'd like to start off, just telling us a little bit about you or your center.
Mm.
That was wonderful.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Good to see you
It
too.
really is. Yeah, my school's been through some changes over the last few years, and I used to be known as, the VIA School of Feng Shui, and it felt a little too confined. And so I've changed the name to VIA Center, meaning center, via our center. And I think, finding our center, getting grounded, coming home, our inner compass, all of those kinds of terms are so necessary these days. So that's kind of the starting point. And as I was contemplating changing the name and looking at the curriculum that I've been offering, I realized that I don't want it to just be about feng shui all the time. Although to me, and probably to you, everything is feng shui, right? But not everybody sees it probably like we do. So I'm trying, what I'm doing is trying to reach more people, really reach more people that may not, even be like drawn to this naturally, but find the value in it, the value in the teachings, these ancient teachings that have just been so consistent and unwavering through so many decades and thousands of years. So I'm at a point now where, and it still feels like there's so much more coming and so much more change happening. And along with everybody else in the world, just really being in the moment and pivoting and turning towards the things that I'm being called to offer and create more ways for people to have access to unique, empowering information that helps drive us and inspire us and connect us and create more meaning in our lives. And so, yeah, that's what I'm here to talk about today is a new way to connect to ourselves and connect with other people.
Thank you. When you talked about via center, that really landed.
Mm.
Center. We think of center as a place outside of us,
Mm-hmm.
and it's used in a business name. And I like how you brought that within,
Yeah.
center within and without.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting you say that because this is so off topic, but years ago, when I was just a graphic designer, I had a wedding invitation business and it was called From Within. And
Mm.
these were, boxes and packages that you opened up. Your invitation was a gift. And so you're reminding me of all the work that I've ever done, whether it's visual communications and graphic design, feng shui, Chinese astrology. It's all intertwined and it's all a part of who I am and how I teach, how I show up, and how I read energy.
Yeah. And
That was,
what we do in feng shui is it's internal, internal, external. Um,
yeah.
so I know that one of the things that you've really been working a lot on in retooling is your astrology certification program.
Hmm.
I would love to hear more about how that's going.
Yes, it's going well, and I'm looking. Each time, I have a student. It's a right now. It's a one-on-one.
Mm.
It's just me and you. We can set the schedule to what works for you, and within a certain amount of time, of course. But each time, of course, the course gets morphed a little bit. It's like, oh, I really need to be including this aspect, and I need to create new handouts for this. And that's the fun part for me is really the creation, of these things. And then, of course, sitting in the space in sharing the knowledge and really teaching people, like, we have to get in and dig in and get those core concepts, really nail down the elements, the yin and yang theory, the animal archetypes. And then when we're really concrete in that kind of understanding and knowledge, it creates this beautiful opening for our intuition and for information to come in, for ideas to emerge that weren't in the book. They aren't written in text somewhere. So it's such a beautiful system. You've had your own personal experience with a Chinese astrology reading, or some people call it a Batsa reading, or Four Pillars of Destiny. And I'm opening the course now for the first time to anybody. You don't have to be trained in Feng Shui at all. I've created a course that really allows us. Let me back up for a minute. Part of the astrology component is it's not just reading astrology, but it's saying, here's now what we can do to support your chart. The imbalances, where it's too high, where it's too low, where your animals need support, where your different pillars need support. And that's where the Feng Shui has always kind of bled in. It's like, well, we're going to use Feng Shui cures for this stuff. So I've adapted kind of a new perspective on cures that are outside of just the Feng Shui terminology, and created, I think, a course for anybody who wants to be of assistance, who wants to serve, someone who wants to dive deeper into who we really are, in what pushes our buttons and why we're being challenged right now, and as a collective and as an individual. We can look collectively at this energy. We can look as, your family members, yourself, and really get perspectives that are so unique from any other astrological system or any other kind of modality, whether it's, being a psychic or casting runes or, card readings. It's such a unique system that allows for magic, as well as this really practical component that says, well, great, I'm kind of out of balance, but what am I going to do about it? Yeah. And I have things that we can do about it, that empowers you, that you get to do about it.
Action empowering. It sounds like this really is an apprenticeship, not certification. Sometimes we think of study, learn, test, you're done.
Yeah.
I know with your school and with our other schools in IFSG, it's really a lot more than that, of that apprenticeship of learning what the certain things are, but then developing your intuition and your own approach to it.
I love that you said that. I love that take on it. I think it speaks of what it is. Of course, there's those core teachings, but it's just like a constant opening and engaging and an invitation to, to the depth of who you are. It really calls you to come out. Like, personally, for me, a chart is a portal. It's a way for me to get in. I don't have those abilities really outside of the chart reading. I really need the chart in front of me. I become the chart. I'm sitting in somebody's element wheel. I'm sitting and I can feel the energy that's coming or going, or where it's depleted, where it's supportive. And so, not that, my students are necessarily going to have that experience. Everybody has a very unique connection and experience with the charts. And even at a basic level, you can do a chart reading and blow somebody's mind. I'm going to teach what I've been doing for 20 years, and I'm going to teach what got me to be successful as an astrologer in this work. It's such a cool system, and it's kind of challenging to explain. but the parts of it seem so simple, but it's so layered. And the layers intertwine with the other layers, and it's just so much fun.
Wonderful. So the word astrology, I'm putting you a little on the spot.
Yeah, do it because I get it every every class.
Think this is really an important thing because
Mhm.
it's difficult for someone to not have something pop to mind. And yet we talked about practical, universal applications of this tool. So I'm just curious if you are able to just speak to that word astrology or
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. I don't, yeah, it doesn't really have anything to do with the stars at the just the base level. There are some stars, but they're not going to be necessarily associated with the stars that we know in the Western astrology world. But basic four pillar astrology, I don't know why they call it astrology, honestly. If it just because it's some sort of a tool that you can read energy, and maybe we're just limited in the English language to have words put to it to describe it. And that's something I've struggled with even in my own head, trying to rename it, reclaim it, make it something that it is. But astrology just seems more relatable. Oh, it's just another, interpretive tool. So it's very different than Vedic astrology or Western astrology. We're not looking at the cycles of the planets. We're actually looking at the cycles of Earth, the five elements that are here naturally on the planet, the animals, archetypes that are naturally here. Those and the yin and yang, right? The night and day and the male female energy and the north and the south. That all that energy, it seems really basic and really simple, but there's so many, it's so rich in storytelling. That's one thing I tell my students is you're telling a story. You're telling a story of what this animal's relationship is to this animal, or what this element's relationship is to this element. And this element might be you, and this element might be your mother. That's a story in there, like how your mom is showing up for you in your chart. So the astrology piece is a bit tricky. It's more of this earthly. I wish I had other words, and sometimes I create other titles or something for this, and then I feel like, oh, now that's even more misunderstood.
Mm. Yeah, to get the word out there and using the word astrology covers it, and yet it doesn't.
Yeah, because even when I say, oh, I do Chinese astrology, often people will go, oh, well, I'm an Aries. Oh, that's not what we're talking about here. There is some there is some crossover. I have yet to see somebody blend, the Western and the Eastern astrology systems in a way. They're very much like this or that, or you're getting this from this. It's just so unique and so fun. And typically, when people get the reading, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea, but it makes sense." They can really resonate, and I don't know if it's just my specific way of teaching and the way that I do charts. I'm pretty sure the way I read a chart or the way that I present a four pillar chart may not be typical. It's just the way that my charts have evolved over the years and what I have found that people need, what they, to support them. And that's what I share.
Thank you. Well, is there anything that else that comes to mind as we wrap things up about your certification program or your school or anything coming up for you to share?
Mm. If you're interested in, I mean, just having a conversation, we can hop on a Zoom call or a phone call and chat about, the possibilities. Absolutely, on my website, it goes into more detail of what the course covers. It is a 4-month program because I want us to not just dive into the juicy, core concepts, but I want to make sure that we have space for you to create real life charts and have real life clients and get feedback on the spot. And even after that 4 months, I'm still available to support you. I'm still available for questions. I have students, you know, quite often, hey, can you look at this chart? Am I missing something? It's a great place to start. I think for anything, I would never do a feng shui consultation, home or business, without a Chinese astrology, at least a look, at least without calculating elements and seeing where the animals are hitting, where the flying stars are hitting the animals. That's important to me. Like I said, it's one-on-one right now. I would love for it to be a group setting. The group energy. It's empowering. People ask questions that you may not think about. But if it often complements so many other jobs or so many other services, to be able to offer, to get a function or an astrology perspective on the clientele that you're working with or the team members that you have, supporting families, doing whole family charts and everybody really getting to know each other. It's really a profound tool that I've seen clients ask for it in various ways that it's like, oh, I never thought about this. It's
Mhm.
a great side hustle. I probably do more charts than I do feng shui consultations, honestly. So it's a great source of income, and you get to really hone in on your own intuition, really start leaning in and trusting that, and helping people get through this time that, feels really uncertain, very unstable. There's nothing more empowering when someone sees their chart and you can say, see, it's just a phase, it's just a moment. And here's how you can get through this moment. Because on the other end of this moment, because we know we're following the cycles and the patterns of nature, of the seasons, of behavior, we know things are going to shift. They never stay the same. Never. They're always going to shift. And that's something that we can expect and sometimes look forward to or sometimes prepare for. So I think it's a tool that really helps people get grounded, reconnected with themselves, perhaps see a loved one in a different way, and then have ongoing tools, a chart that's recorded that they can refer back to for the rest of their life and always pick up new little nuggets that they didn't hear that one time
Mm.
because it wasn't they weren't ready. So to me, it's the gift that keeps on giving, honestly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for telling us about your program and showing up the way that you do in the world, Tina. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for this time.